I want to focus on a couple of things today. First, I want to start, of course, last Friday. Congratulations to all of our newest officers. 8 officers joined the ranks at Barnstable Police. And what I think is great about this is, we talk a lot about making sure that our officers are really ingrained in our community, that they live here in the town of Barnstable. But from what I understand, several of these officers actually began and perhaps first started learning about becoming a police officer at Barnstable High School.
That is correct. As you know, we did hire 8 officers last week, and we only hire residents of the town of Barnstable. If you do not live in the town of Barnstable, we are not even going to consider you. I believe out of the 8 officers, 7 of them graduated from Barnstable High School, and a number of them went through the Student Police Academy, which is offered at Barnstable High School. We have a full-time officer, Detective Reed Hall. He's been there for a number of years, and he is assigned to the high school while the school is open during the school year. And part of his duties is he teaches student police academies. I believe he teaches 2 or 3 classes each week. And this is not the first time that we've had kids who actually gone through that academy, graduated Barnstable High School, went on to college, went to service, then came back to town and want to become a police officer. So it's great, and that's exactly what we're looking for. But we also have officers here who've gone through the Assistant Police Academy, which is for adults. We run now a 14-week course. We have one going on right now, and I believe we have 2 officers who went through the Assistant Police Academy, developed an interest in law enforcement, and then went on to become Barnstable police officers.
Wonderful. Really nice to see that come full circle. And I understand the officers stopped by the high school last week to kind of pay a visit and say thank you and really show off that really you can get your career started right at our high school.
Actually, they've been teamed up with Reed Hall and all of the adopted schools, and they've been to just about every public school in town of Barnstable. That's a huge part of it for our officers to get involved with the youngsters at a very, very young age, so they can develop a relationship with the police at a young age.
And a positive relationship.
Absolutely.
So, Chief, let's talk a little bit about training. Of course, this is always, I would think that our officers need to receive constant training, whether they're new or whether they're seasoned sergeants or lieutenants. So tell me a little bit about what you focus on in terms of training this time of year.
Well, we have mandated training. Every police officer, starting a year after they graduate from the Massachusetts Criminal Justice Training Academy, the year after they graduate, they have to go for continual training, which is a minimum of 40 hours per year for every single officer. So we have 117 officers that have to go to in-service training, and that takes a lot of planning. And what we do, as soon as the summer is over, we start that planning because we want all our training done, or the bulk of the training done between October and February. And today is the first day it starts for the in-service training, and we have 12 officers attending the training. Now, this is mandated training that comes down by the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, and they determine what the course load is going to be. This year, it's first aid and CPR, which is there every year, and firearms training. Every officer has to qualify a minimum of 1 time per year. Our officers do it twice a year for just some extra caution. And then the other days, it consists of constitutional law updates, criminal law and motor vehicle law update, and mental health first aid. And this is becoming a huge issue right across the state, right across the country, dealing with individuals who have mental health issues. So actually, our officers are the ones who are doing that training, but all officers now have to go through that specialized training. And then defensive tactics. And that is a 40 hours course training that every officer will go through between now and next February. But besides that, we're also planning out all kinds of specialized training that the officers go through in the course of the year, such as social media training, retail crime investigations. This is a great course that we send 2 or 3 officers to prior to the shopping season, the Christmas season coming up. We have a ton of shoplifting going on, and this really focuses in on that aspects of the investigation. Use of force, street survival, interview interrogations, developing confidential informants. As you know, I believe it was last April, we hired 5 new sergeants. All 5 of the sergeants are going to supervisory school. That's just a 3-week course starting in December. Narcotics investigation, and then this year we just got confirmed by the FBI. They're coming down and they're going to provide training here for 3 weeks on March, May, and June at the BPD for the FBI leader courses, which is really held for deputy chiefs and lieutenants in the command staff level. As I move forward in my career and get prepared to retire, we provide some very specialized training for our lieutenants and deputy chiefs.
Chief, you mentioned social media training, and that piqued my interest a little bit. Can you talk to me more about how social media comes into police work? I'm sure there's a multitude of facets in ways in which social media can be used, but also ways in which the officers need to conduct themselves on social media.
Absolutely. We have our policies procedures, dictating exactly how the officers will handle their social media, especially on anything that we have on electronic devices that we have. But I cannot tell you these damage that some of the social media has done. The first thing we do when we look for new recruits, those 8 officers that just went through, the first thing they have to do is they have to turn over all their passwords to all their social media accounts, and that's the first thing that we look at. And some of the stupid things and damaging things that people put up on social media is incredible. And now every major crime that we deal with has some type of digital component in it. So whenever we do a search warrant for whatever the charges might be, it might be for narcotics, a murder investigation, a larceny investigation, the next thing we're looking for is all the social media contacts, any type of electronic equipment they might have. If they have a cell phone, a laptop, an iPad, a computer, we're taking everything, and the evidence that you get from that is absolutely incredible. And we're making a huge investment. Just 2 weeks ago, we opened a computer forensic lab here in the BPD, and we really expanded it. And we have one of our detective Con now. He's going back down to Fletchley starting next week for another course. So it's ongoing, and this is the wave of the future, and we're trying to stay ahead of it.
So, Chief, let's talk a little bit more about narcotics investigation.
Yes.
Obviously, this is also a changing environment. You've got your standard drugs, your marijuana, your cocaine, your heroin,
yep.
But also there's the kind of changing environment. I know we had a lot of deal with bath salts, with things of that nature. So how much keeping up with trends or kind of taking a look at what the next thing coming down the pike plays into that narcotics training?
Well, that's a huge part of it, and it all depends on supply and demand, what people have out there and how much it's being charged for. Right now the bath salts really is not there because we've dealt with the retail establishment, and that's really not that readily available as it was before. Cocaine, heroin, it depends on the source, how much it is. Is it cheaper to buy the pill form? Is it cheaper to buy the powder form? Our biggest concern right now is because we're starting to see a little bit of crystal meth pop up. We're a little bit concerned about that because that is incredibly addictive. And that looks like it might be coming in. So we're trying to get ahead of the curve on that one. That's because that's be very problematic.
Absolutely, and that just ruins a person.
That just ruins a person,
and
it takes a fact that's extremely addictive, but just to have it and the processing of that, it's a time bomb waiting to go off.
So, Chief, for all of these mandated trainings, I know that your office is fantastic at securing grants for a lot of this. But how
Yep.
much of the budget do the mandated trainings take up? How much does that cost you on a yearly basis?
It costs that's a great question because we spend a lot of time doing that. Our three big overtime factors are our minimum staffing, training, and our court overtime. That takes a huge part of our budget. And because we're the police department and we're operating 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, when we send officers to training, we have to backfill them. I know a lot of different departments, they have a luxury of, we'll shut the place down for a day and everybody goes to training. We can't do that. So when we're budgeting that out, and if you look at our overtime budget, our training overtime budget is just over $400,000 per year, which is a substantial part of our overtime budget. But it has to be done, because the police department is the town's single biggest liability, and if we are sued, and knock on wood, we have no lawsuits pending, but the first thing that comes up is the amount of training that the police officer has received and the type of training the officer has received. So this is something we have to stay on top of.
Absolutely, and I would think too, Chief, we're seeing more mental health training and more psychology training,
yep.
especially for those officers who are dealing with the homeless population and the substance abuse issues as well.
Well, that whole group of officers, we sent them down to Nashville. They actually are the trainers. They are the one training the courses. They just had a training here last week, and they trained 25 officers from all over the Cape. Nobody from Barnstable, because most of our officers have already gone through it. And I know they have another class coming up in November where they're going to teach another 25 officers from around Barnstable County. But again, that is another huge challenging part, and that's policing is changing. I've been here for 36 years, and what I did the first year I started is totally different from what these new kids are doing their first year.
No doubt. Well, Chief, I thank you so much, as always, for joining us here on Barnstable this morning. A pleasure to have you on our show, and we wish you